Are you downsizing? Maybe need more room because of additions to the family, or possibly seeking that dream home you've always wanted? Well, Tim Eisner at Royal LePage Atlantic is the guy for you. With a proven track record and multiple awards, Tim goes above and beyond to find out your needs and exactly what you're looking for. So if you're seeking a new home or trying to sell your current one, contact Tim at 902-499-5717 or check him out on Facebook at Tim Eisner. Again, that's 902-499-5717. Trust me, when all is said and done, we'll be saying Tim Eisner strikes again. Hey, what is going on, everyone? Hope y'all had an amazing weekend. Welcome to another episode of Outside the Chute. I'm your host, Randy Frame. First off, have to send out thoughts and prayers to everyone down in Florida affected by Hurricane Ian. Man, some of those images and video that came out of there were absolutely insane, you know, especially around the Fort Myers area. I mean, we got hit pretty hard here with Hurricane Fiona last week, and there's still some people without power right now, which for here is pretty crazy, but the impacts of Ian down there are going to be felt for months, I dare say. So again, thinking of you Floridians, hope you get back somewhat sense of normalcy here soon. I'm sure you will. Well, the OTC Player of the Week is back. With fall ball starting up, I figured why not bring it back and shine a light on those that have great weeks in our awesome game. This week's comes to us from the Texas Fusion Gold 18U Club as Ava Dennis takes home the honors. Ava hit .688 with a double, triple, 5 RBIs, and 7 runs scored while playing at the 8th Annual Texas Fusion Showcase last weekend. Fantastic job, Ava. Best of luck the rest of the season. On to this week's guest, and we sat down and chatted with the University of Alabama alum, 2016 All-American, and the owner of one of the best curveballs in the game, Littlejohn Watkins. Syd had a stellar 4 years with the Crimson Tide at University of Alabama. She was a 4-year letter winner, raking up 67 wins and a career 1.77 ERA, which puts her ranked 6th of all time in program history for both those stats. Like I mentioned earlier, she was a 2016 NFCA All-American, as well as NFCA All-Region First Team. She was also the first player to throw a perfect game at Rhodes Stadium. Syd would then take some time off before making a return in the Netherlands for the Euro Cup in 2021 and placing third. She'd then move on to AUX this past spring and played so well it earned her a contract for Season 3 of AU in Chicago that finished up in August. Syd's currently working as a registered dietitian at the University of Florida. We're going to talk to Syd about getting her start in the game back in Texas, her time at Alabama, the journey back to the game she had after retirement, and of course her time with Athletes Unlimited. Syd was an absolute treat to chat with. I can't thank her enough for taking time to come on and chat, you know, especially the day before a massive hurricane was on its way. So as usual, grab that drink, sit back, relax, cause here we go.
I got the world in my palm, lights, camera, action, it's on. I can't describe what I'm feeling, ain't never felt this freedom. I got the world in my palm, lights, camera, action, it's on. Ain't never felt this freedom. Could you say that anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything
Here we go. We are so happy to have on with us today University of Alabama alum, 2016 All-American, Athletes Unlimited star, and the owner of the best curveball I've ever seen in our game, Littlejohn Watkins. Syd, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored and flattered and excited to be a part.
Oh, that's awesome. How's things going down in Florida? I mean, we touched on it a little bit before we started recording. Got a hurricane coming.
Yeah, there's a hurricane coming tomorrow, but, other than that, it's been great. My husband and I, we've been married for over 3 years now, working on our 4th, but, we've lived in 4 states in those 3 years, and Gainesville so far is probably my favorite place that we've lived.
Nice. So. Nice. Yeah, we just went through a hurricane here in Nova Scotia, Canada. Imagine that. We're getting a hurricane, but we just got our power back yesterday, and there was a fair bit of damage, but hey, we got to get used to that stuff now.
Yeah.
You touched on your husband with University of Florida Gators football. You guys both work for the Gators, correct?
Yes. So I, whenever we first moved here, I was working with football as a part-time dietitian, but I recently accepted a job actually while I was at Athletes Unlimited to be the campus dietitian for the entire University of Florida.
Oh,
So that's what I'm doing now. So, I'm still a dietitian, of course, all those things, but now instead of working with the athletes, I'm working with the entire campus. So faculty, staff, students, everybody.
Oh, wow.
And then, he is a strength conditioning coach for football here.
Right on. Yeah. College football, that's in full season down there right now, eh?
Yes. And, it's such a weird year for college football. I feel like, everybody is either getting beat, close games. And I don't know how I feel about it. It's just, my anxiety is going crazy. I mean, every game is such a tight game. I can't handle it.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, we get to see it on TV here, but how crazy is that environment?
I mean, especially and before we were here, we were at Mississippi State for the past couple of years. So being in the SEC, it's a very intense environment, and, it's a volatile one too. So, while you have people out there, that say to me like, oh my God, like that y'all live such a cool life. Like that's so, special that y'all get to do that. Y'all are lucky you get to do that. And don't get me wrong, we are extremely fortunate, extremely blessed. But, with being in the SEC, it is so volatile. Like there are some games, that you can't lose. And, it comes down to it, like the month of December, it's a happy time because of Christmas and everything else. But it's also the time of, okay, are we going to be here in a couple of months? Are we moving? Are we not moving? Like, is the coach staying? Because if anything like that happens, it puts our life, I'm not going to say in jeopardy because that's not the correct word, but like where sometimes we have to make a change and, you just never know that's coming. So there's always a sense of unknown. And, there's a lot of things that you don't know that go on in the athletic department that, you don't have control over. And so, I think it's crazy that we put, our livelihood in the hands of 18 to 22-year-old boys, but, they handle it well. I mean, they respect it. These guys here are awesome. Like and the guys at Mississippi State too, like everywhere we've been, the players are absolutely amazing and treat us so well. I mean, they are our family, but it's a stressful lifestyle. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt at all. I mean, so like the contract that your husband would sign, is that like a year-to-year basis thing, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Pretty much.
That makes sense.
Of course, head coach's contract, they'll get extension for
right.
7 years or so, but that doesn't trickle down to support staff. So, strength staff is year to year, support staff is year to year. Everybody else doesn't quite get that extension. I mean, it's one of those that whenever a head coach gets an extension, the staff kind of breathes a sigh of relief, like, okay, we bought ourselves some more time, to work through some things, but it's just, you just never know. Right. And that's what, but that's also the joyful part about it. Like after last season, we didn't know we were going to be coming to Florida. We got the call and, Alex knew some people here that he would potentially be working with. And, he actually said no the first couple of times, but, they kept coming back. And so, having that opportunity, that's the exciting part of it. It's just, there's high highs and low lows. Cause I mean, you even look back to, a few months before, actually it was 1 month before we got married. The head coach at Texas Southern was let go, meaning that by association, my husband was let go and was jobless for, 7 months. Ooh. And so again, we've been on both sides of it. And so it's just, you never know which way it's going to turn. So it's quite an industry to be a part of.
Oh, I guess it is. Wow. That's crazy. Well, before we get on with your career, we have a little thing that we like to do on the podcast here. We call it quick pitches. I'm going to throw out some random questions to you, and
okay,
you answer them as best you can.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, first one. If you had to live off one meal for a week, what is it?
Pizza, because I've done it before.
Oh, nice. All right,
with pepperonis and jalapenos specifically.
Oh, delicious! Absolutely. Oh, that's great. Biggest thing you miss at University of Alabama?
The people.
Okay. If you could pick one place to go on vacation, where would it be?
I would love to take my husband to Amsterdam.
Right on. Actually, I always ask that question on here, and mine number one's always been Italy. And I saw you've been to Italy.
Yes.
Venice, wasn't it?
Yes.
You've been to Venice, and I would love to go to Venice. How is it?
Not knocking Venice, because it was wonderful, but I'm one of those, I'm going to hype up the Netherlands more. I think the Netherlands is extremely underrated.
Oh,
so
really?
I pick the Netherlands, but if I was going to go there again, I would still go to the Netherlands before I go back to Venice.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we're going to be talking about the Netherlands later on here. So good plug. If you could go back and play one game over again, which one is it?
Super Regionals, my freshman year against Nebraska. It was a 13-inning game, and all the freshmen, which I was a freshman at that time, all four of us played a major part in it. So
Nice. Right on. Good one. What's your go-to show to binge watch?
Ooh, I have a couple, because I'm definitely like really big on Grey's Anatomy, but depending on the time of the year, if The Bachelorette's on, or if there's a new season of Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. Amazing. Amazing. This is, that last the past season that just went by. I was like, I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah.
Two more here. In one word, describe the atmosphere at Rhodes.
Electric.
I figured that's what it was going to be, actually. Is it really like it's crazy to play there, right?
It is. And, especially those tight games, there's like this, I don't want to say tense, but there's definitely an energy that's felt around the stadium, because everybody there knows that, if you're, especially like at super regionals, everyone knows how important those games are. So there's already this energy in the stadium, this tenseness, this of excitement of like what's going to happen. And so it's like every little thing that happens, you get a much bigger reaction than you would expect. And so and you thrive off of it too. I mean, that's why you go to a place like Alabama, is to feel that energy.
Right on. Plus you got Emily there cheering us on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Last one here. Why do you hate lizards so much?
To me, they are snakes with legs, and I just believe that they are a spawn of Satan. I do not like them. And of course, I live in Florida.
I was just about to say.
There's a lizard with every step, and I don't like them either, because if you hear them in the bushes, like whenever I'm walking my dogs, they sound like they're 10 pounds. And they're not even more than 3 inches long. I can't.
Oh, that's hilarious. Actually, I feel bad for you, actually, because having that phobia and then having to walk your dog. And I know what it's like walking in Florida. And that's one of the first things I ever noticed when I was down there is like, wow, look at them running all over the place here.
Yeah. And I will say, I'm getting I'm not going to say I'm getting better with the fear, but I'm getting better with them being around. But I still will avoid them at all costs. I don't want them anywhere. If there's one like in front of our door to get in the house, I'm like, Alex, this is your time, buddy. I take care of the spiders because, they bother me, but I'll get rid of the spiders, whereas he takes care of the lizards because I can't handle those.
Nice. All right, let's get to your career. So as with, every guest that we have on here, we like to take it back to the beginning. Tell us how little Syd got her start in the game.
Oh, goodness. Little Syd, what a character she was. Little Syd was involved in T-ball and, all of those things growing up. And I mean, I was in twirling, swimming, cheerleading, all of the things. So I will say I had a wonderful childhood. I grew up in a very small town. There was farmland all around me. So, I was always around animals, always doing different sports. And after T-ball, I kind of got away from softball for a little bit. Not because of anything. It's just my parents were like, okay, you got to pick. Are you doing cheerleading, twirling, softball? What are you doing? And at the time, my sister was twirling in college. So it's like, I was like, oh, I want to be like my sister. Like, I'm going to twirl.
What's twirling?
The little things with the batons.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yep. They're usually with the band, the college band, throwing those things up in the air.
Yep.
So I was doing that for a little bit. And then, I got back into softball with like the little league, city little league, and was doing coach pitch, got into real life fast pitch. And, I got involved in travel ball, and I honestly, I can't tell you why I got involved in travel ball other than whenever I say that, I mean, like, I don't know why my parents put me in it other than, I was socially awkward. I wanted things to do with my friends, and a lot of my friends played on a travel ball team. And so I got on the team, and, God bless my parents, because I'm sure that they were just looking for something for me to do. I was a very energetic child, always involved in stuff. But, I was that kid that played 2 innings in a game because it was a rule. I wasn't good. I would get my 2 innings in right field, miss a pop-up. I could hit. So that's where I would contribute. But it just wasn't really, it was just something I did. But I was also the kid that was over there. I was a great cheerleader. I had my little soda over there drinking a Dr. Pepper, cheering everybody on. Like, I was having fun. I was hanging out with people. I was becoming more social. So it was great. And then, I got to where I was like, okay, like, this is fun and all, but like, I kind of want to play. So what can I do? But whenever I tell you I was awkward, it's one of those, I wasn't tall yet, but everyone knew I was going to be tall because of the size of my hands and the size of my feet. They were huge. So I was extremely clumsy. I just very awkward, long, lanky, but still not that tall yet. And so one of my coaches was like, you know what, Sydney? Like, and his daughter was a pitcher. And I was staying over at their house for like a week-long camp of some sort. Again, just my parents trying to get me out of the house. And I don't blame them. But it was, he was like, hey, why don't you try pitching? Like, you're going to be tall. You're going to have long arms. You already have big hands. Like, why not just try it? And I tried it. I wasn't too good at it, but, it was something where, like, I liked it. It was fun. And so I remember going home and telling my parents I wanted to take pitching lessons, and they laughed at me. They were like, yeah, right. Because again, I don't blame them because I was not good at softball. I was not athletic in the least.
Wow.
But they're like, okay, sure. Because, it's at that point, I'm 12 years old. And so it's like all the pitchers have already started pitching.
Oh, really? Wow.
And have been pitching. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was late to the game, literally. Wow. And then I kept harping, kept begging for it. And so we started with like a local high school girl just kind of showing me how it was done. And then I ended up going to Coach Bob Phelps. He lives in Illinois now, but at the time he lived in Tyler, which at that time, my parents thought driving an hour to pitching lessons was absurd. But we did it. We did it once a week. Because again, it was weird because it was like, I was not coordinated at all in the least, but something was working while I was pitching. So I'm not going to say I had it right away, but it was coming easier to me than playing the outfield. I couldn't see the ball. So
hey, I know I'm a pitcher as well, and I cannot play I cannot judge it. I cannot. If a ball is hit to depth perception. If there's a pop fly in the infield, not a problem. But having outfield, and I think it's like the time from it hits the bat and trying to judge where it's going to go. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, no, I have not. Even on the ones on the infield, just because my depth perception is so bad, I literally will point at it and run the opposite way. I'm like, what do you please? Unless it's like a little, like, kind of one of those weird line drive pop-ups that's about the same height as me, I can do those. But the ones that actually go up in there, I'm like, nope, no thank you.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. I'm like, first or third, you can take this one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, exactly. And, but I stuck with it. And then, I got to high school and I was still playing travel ball. I was on, I started, I can't remember, it was my freshman year in high school, I believe. I started playing on a team out of Dallas, which is 3 hours. And so, my parents were like, wow, we are those crazy people that drive on weekends 3 hours one way to go to team practice. But again, and it's something that I didn't realize it was such a big deal then, but now I'm like, wow, literally my parents were insane. Because if I don't have kids, but if my dog was wanting to go to dog training 3 hours away, I would be like, absolutely not. But, we can find something just as good closer. But, so I really have to credit them because I don't know how they did it, but they did. And so it worked out. And, but going through high school, especially my freshman to sophomore year, Coach Bob, my pitching coach, moved. So then and then I moved to Texas Glory. So then on Saturdays, we were driving 3 hours to Houston to go do 3 hours one way, mind you, to go do a pitching lesson with Amanda Scarborough, and then driving back home. And then on Sundays, we were driving 3 hours to Dallas, McKinney area for team practice, and then 3 hours on the way home. So again, my parents, insane. But again, they sacrificed so much. And then really my sophomore year of college is, let me go back. I'm so sorry. My freshman year, I never even really, I'm not gonna say I didn't know of college softball, but I was like, oh yeah, well, that's cool. But like, that's not for me. Like, I'm over here just trying to make varsity. Like, that's all that matters to me at this point. And I did by the skin of my teeth. But then my sophomore year comes around and, we're playing travel ball tournaments and people start talking about recruiting. And I'm like, what is this? And, we start getting some attention. And I guess then is kind of whenever I realized that playing college softball was even an option. I planned on going to a local school where my sister went to school, Stephen F. Austin State University. And again, that is not knocking that people who did, because it's a great school. It's just, that's kind of what I had imagined. That's what everybody in my town did. They either went to A&M or TJC or Stephen F. Austin. And so I was like, yeah, I'll be going to Stephen F. Austin. Like, I have connections there because my sister went there.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I had planned. And then here comes softball knocking at my door. And then it's like, I start having conversations with my coaches, one specifically, Ed Naudine, and then Tracy Beard, who has now passed. He had ALS, but he was also one of my coaches through high school. And, I was playing for Ed in 16 under whenever I committed to Alabama, but I was about to move up to the 18 under team. So the whole organization, we talked as a whole. But, they sat me down many a times and they're like, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, wow, I am 15. I don't know. I am 15, 16. I don't know. And so, we started making lists as far as, is college softball something you wanted to do? And I mean, I'm a nerd about softball. I love the game. And so like, I would love to keep playing. And then it was, okay, they told me, they're like, we know that you are extremely competitive because you make everything in competition, even whenever it doesn't need to be, which is still true to this day. I have a lot of secret competitions with people and they don't even know about it. But, they're like, so, we think, and two, with my size and what I was able to do, they're like, we think Division I really could be an option for you. And I was just like, wow, you really think that? Because I was not thinking that.
Wow.
But, so they had to sit me down a few times just because, I was a small town girl and, my parents, again, they did absolutely everything they could. But to us, we were just like, this is something that we're doing. And yes, it's something I'm good at. But like, is this something real? Like, we were just like, are you joking with us? I mean, obviously you're sitting us down. So you're not joking, but like, is this for real?
Yeah. Trying to process everything, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Like, are you trying to sell us on something? And so, we sat down and then I started getting, I wasn't getting calls because I was just a sophomore, but I was receiving interest like via my travel ball coaches from other coaches. And the summer after my sophomore year, I started getting offers and going on visits. And I was just like, wow. So then, I made my list of what I wanted in the school, and a lot of things on that list matched with the University of Alabama. And I mean, the rest is just history.
Yeah. Were there other schools in the running? Or
oh yeah, absolutely. I would say my top ones were I was really high on Mississippi State because Van at that time had just moved over there as a head coach, and I really liked Van.
Right.
So me and her bonded really well. So I was really considering Mississippi State. I really liked the University of Arkansas. I really liked Illinois, even though the cold did scare me. So it's one of those, like, I didn't think that was like a real option, but I really loved the coaching staff there at the time.
Right.
So, there was definitely some options there. I had decided early on that I did want to go kind of far away from home. Not because of anything negative, but I just know the type of I knew the type of person that I am. Whereas if I did go somewhere close to home, I would be at home every weekend trying to keep up with my high school friends.
Right. Yeah.
Rather than really investing into the team and into the present moment. So I was like, if I'm really going to do this, I need to be in a place where I can fully invest. And to do that, I needed to get away from home.
Yeah, makes sense. So what was it about Alabama that drew you there?
Won the competition. I loved the competition there. And it's a funny story. I actually went on a visit there before PGF Nationals, summer after my sophomore year. And Murph had told me that it was between me and two other pitchers, and they were going to they were going to kind of view how we performed at PGF, because all three of us were going to PGF, and then they would make a decision on who they offered. And for lack of better words, that pissed me off.
No pressure either,
Yeah. I mean, I wrote him a 6-page letter telling him why I was the one that he wanted. And, that year at PGF Nationals, I pitched every game because I was the only uncommitted pitcher, and Ed Nadine was like, we're getting you committed. We are getting you committed.
Oh, good on
Ed.
it.
We lost the first game, went all the way through the losers bracket to the championship game.
Oh,
now
wow.
we did lose the championship,
Nice.
So we couldn't figure it out, but it wasn't a miracle ending, but
That's still a good run though.
I think it's one of if it's not the best in program history, it's one of the best.
Awesome.
So yeah, I pitched like every game going into that. So, I like that he challenged me. I appreciated that. I mean, of course at the time it pissed me off, but then looking back, I'm like, I really appreciate that challenge, because that's what ignited a fire in me and brought out the best in me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew if he saw that, then he knew how to coach me. And then, I mean, just really all of the coaches I really loved. I really bonded with all of them. And then what's cool about Alabama is that there's no pro teams in the state of Alabama. So the people in Alabama are really invested in the college athletics. I mean, obviously we all know, but the people in the state of Alabama are really, are focused on the universities, on the well-being of student athletes. And there's a lot of support for athletics in the state of Alabama. And so those were some other reasons I wanted to go. And then just overall, you were very supported by academics. You had people in a career center to help you. You had just all the resources that you could need. And so all of those things together. And plus, there was just a feeling whenever I went there, I was like, I feel like this is a place where I can thrive. Right. Not that the other places I didn't feel that. I enjoyed all of my visits, but it was just something different.
Right. Now, what's the biggest thing to remember arriving freshman year? Was it like big adjustment, overwhelming? What was it?
It was. Honestly, I would say the biggest adjustment was adjusting to computers. I know that sounds crazy, but, growing up, we didn't even get a computer, or I didn't have a computer in my house until high school. And at that point, it was dial-up internet. So I'd never used it. We didn't have school laptops. We didn't have that stuff. We just had like the big old desktops that, you see in like all the old movies.
Oh, yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Because, I'm from a very rural area. And so I remember my first college test was a math test, and it was on a computer, on a laptop. And I failed the test, not because I had the wrong answers, because I made the test checker come check the answers. I had the right answers, but it was like I had a space before the answer. Like it was all like technical errors. And I just remember I was bawling my eyes out because they're like, well, we can give you half credit. It's going to be up to your professor. But like, yeah, you had the right answers, but you entered them incorrectly in the computer. Or, and sometimes in the computer, it's like you still had to show your work. So I just had trouble typing all of that out. And I just remember calling my mom and I was like, I'm going to fail college. Like, I can't do this. So,
and that's when you tell your professor, you're like, I don't know how to use a computer. And they're like, yes. Come on, you do so.
Yes, exactly. And so, that was an adjustment. And then just, of course, the workouts were an adjustment. The team practices were an adjustment. But it wasn't that in itself. It was the tempo that you go at.
Right.
It was like the game was moving much faster, so I had to learn how to slow the game down.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Now, actually, when you would have arrived there, that's right in kickoff for football season, obviously, because I mean you're in it now. What Alabama has a huge football program, do they not?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm
the best.
What was that? That first time seeing that? What was that like?
Oh, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, I grew up, Texas.
Well, I guess growing in Texas,
Also, I would say it's also a big deal. So
yeah.
That was a big deal to me too whenever I was being recruited. Not necessarily that that the school had to have football, but the fact that they had it and it was so big, it was just, it was like icing on the cake, put it that way. Right. But, going to those games and being able to bond with your team, doing all of that stuff, really going to all the athletic events was a super fun experience. And I mean, the thing about, and again, this is during my time at Alabama, but it just, the athletes there, and I'm sure it was like this at other schools too, but I mean, it's like y'all all are in the same boat. So getting to, see the people that and you grow to love and you build a friendship with, go out there and compete and do well is such an, it's a rewarding feeling. And you're like, and it gives you that sense of, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? But, you're just so proud of them. And, your friend scores a touchdown. You're like, that's my friend. It just gives you this sense of pride to wear that A and be a part of such an amazing tradition.
Awesome. Now, I have something that I like to ask all my NCAA guests that I have on here. Do you remember your first action on the mound?
I remember the moments leading up to it, but I'm pretty sure I blacked out. Well, I remember, so obviously it was, Murph had told me the day before. So let me rewind for you a little bit.
Okay.
We had done the program 2 days, like the Friday and Saturday before our Sunday doubleheader for fall. The program is like military special ops training with these two people who come in, and it's honestly, it was through physical pain, it was the 2 most painful days of my life.
Oh, wow.
I was so sore. I've never done so many push-ups. Mind you, I can't even do push-ups. That I could not let my arms sit down by my sides on Sunday. And Sunday morning, I get a text and he's like, hey, you're starting the first game. And I was like, I can't move. What? So I went to the trainer extra early that day and was like, help me, please. And then I remember, my first time coming into an SEC game was against South Carolina. I think we were winning maybe 2-0, 2-1, something like that. Or either way, it was a game within 1 or 2 runs.
Right. Jackie
Trina is pitching. There's no outs. There's bases loaded. And he's like, hey, Syd, come on. And I'm like, excuse me? You called my name. And he's like, yeah, come on. What? And then my first SEC start was the second game of our Missouri series at Missouri for the SEC title. Oh. So, he loved throwing me in the fire. And unfortunately, I did well that way. So he kept doing it.
Well, hey, if it works, why not keep doing it?
Exactly. High functioning anxiety was paying off at that time.
Oh, that's crazy. Good on Murph. Great. So that freshman season, of course, you guys made it to the finals of Women's College World Series. Like, that must have been a pretty big eye opener for the first time, that you get to OKC.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, that was, that was something that was always the dream. And, me and my dad would talk about oh, what happened? What if we did ever make it to the World Series? And I remember that moment of us actually making it. I will say though, as a freshman, I don't think I don't get me wrong, I completely appreciated it. But, as a freshman, you're kind of deer in the headlights the whole first season.
Yeah.
So, I can't imagine how the seniors that year felt making it all the way back to the national championship. Because, as you grow in your years as a softball player, especially in college, each year especially my freshman year too, it's I participated in some big moments, but I wasn't a normal starter. And I was fine with that because I hadn't earned my time. But it's something that as the years went on, I really started to appreciate how hard the road to OKC was. And, you know, once you get to OKC, it's anybody's game. Like I don't think I had that full understanding of it my freshman year. Because again, you know, we had those seniors coming up in the big moments, hitting home runs or somebody getting a clutch hit, Jackie Trina striking out everybody. Yeah. It was something where I was like, you know, we're expected to win. And I was happy about that because I'm like, yeah, I'm on the winning team. But I just don't think I appreciated it as much as maybe the seniors did. But still, nothing compares to that.
No, not at all. So what was the biggest learning curve that freshman season, do you figure?
Oh my goodness. So everything. It was, I had to learn how to set up hitters. So, you know, I had an injury my senior year. So during high school, I threw gas. Nobody believes me, but whenever I went to Alabama softball camp, I was the hardest throwing pitcher at Alabama softball camp and all of those things. And, you know, I was pumping 68 in a game. I was throwing hard. And then I tore my tricep.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. And so whenever it came to, and that was during my last game as a high school softball player. And, you know, we would go to the doctor and they were like, hey, you know, as far as repairing it, we could repair it, but we don't know how your body would take to it. You know, it's one of those that like you can go without it, but we don't know how you'll do with it or if you'll do it again. And so it was like, okay, like, let's just not do it then if I can deal without it. So I kind of had a little learning curve there of having to kind of relearn how to pitch. And then I get to Alabama and Steph never said this, but I can just only imagine they were like, what? You used to throw hard. What happened? But luckily I still had a curveball. But I think during that time it was learning to it was learning my own self-confidence and that if I was going to make a statement, I had to believe in myself first to prove, like, if I didn't think that I was good enough, then why would anybody else think I'm good enough? Like if anything, I had to advocate for myself, which I was not used to doing. I was used to, you know, letting my performance speak for me. But you know, you get to college and sometimes, and I'm not saying you have to advocate by going up to the coach and say like, hey, I'm good enough for this. I can do this. But it's just, you have to do those extra things to advocate for yourself to show that you belong there. Because all the coaches think that you belong there, but it's getting that trust of your team that you have to advocate for.
Yeah.
And then again, going to like the most analytical, it was learning to set up hitters. So, you know, in high school, it's like you can, in travel ball even, you know, I can be facing a hitter and throw 3 curveballs in a row, throw them in the exact same place, get, you know, 3 strikes, whether it's foul, swing and miss, rollover. You know, you can throw them in the same place where it's like, you know, you get to college and then even more in the pros, it's like, okay, if they say they call a curveball first pitch in college, you know, it's like you want to get ahead immediate, like you want to get that first pitch strike. And then in the pros, it's like, are they going to swing at the first pitch or not? Let's see. And so you kind of have to, it's even more exaggerated in the pros, but it's more of, you know, say we get that first curve as a strike and they call it again. If I'm, you know, trying to get in the mind of Steph, it's okay. She doesn't want this in the same place. She wants me to get it out further and maybe a little bit lower based on the hitter's swing path. So that way we can set up a backdoor curve. And again, you know, you don't want to necessarily look too far ahead for the next pitch, but again, it's just knowing that, okay, I can't throw it in the same place twice. And I need to make this so that way if they don't swing, my next pitch looks even better.
Yep. Totally get you. Totally get you on that. Let's chat about sophomore season. Specifically March 8th against Ole Miss. Now, you threw the first and only perfect game at Rhodes Stadium. How special was that one?
It was that, like, again, I think that was another one of those moments where I totally blacked out. But I mean, just to, because, you know, it was one of those, it was like, I had thrown a perfect game earlier that season. And then, so again, that's one of the most, if not the rarest occurrence, you know, it's one of them, one of the top 3. So I didn't never think that would happen again, especially at the college level. And so the fact that I was able to do it, you know, in front of the home crowd, my family was there that weekend. I mean, it worked out that even, some of my friends from my classes were there that weekend. I mean, it was just overall just the most amazing feeling. And it was just one of those that, like, I was going through the game and Demi Turner, who, I lived with her for a few years. I just remember she kept coming up to me and she was like, well, keep doing what you're doing, Syd. Like, so she was saying it without saying it. And I was like, Demi, shut up. So, but I didn't know it was really happening until like the fourth inning.
Right.
Because, you can get through the first couple innings, but whenever it goes to like the third and the fourth, that's whenever you really start thinking about it. Because you're like, oh, here we go. Oh, like this is working, and again, just to do that in front of the home crowd and selfishly, to have something that, like, no matter what pitcher comes in there, which I hope they all throw way more perfect games than I did, because that means the program's doing well and recruiting the right pitchers. But, that's something that no one can ever take away from me, is having the first one in that stadium. So to me, that's just an incredibly cool feeling to know that in some way, shape, or fashion, like, I left my mark on Rhodes Stadium through that. I mean, I hope to have left it in much better ways than just that perfect game. But again, that's just something that I know that nobody can take away from me.
Exactly. Now, hopefully Montana Fouts hears this and says, okay, let's do this then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if any other pitcher wants to go through and throw like 5 perfect games in a season, please, by all means.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, junior season, you captured second team All-American honors. We got to talk about that first weekend in April. You had against number 1 ranked Florida Gators. You win 2-1 on Friday night opener, close it out with a 3-0 shutout on the Sunday. Safe to say confidence was booming after that weekend series?
Honestly, after that weekend, just because, I had previously lost a national championship to Florida. They were always, in the top 5. At that point of the season, that's where, like, it really hit me as far as, like, you know what? Like, I can be a number 1 pitcher. And, even if Alexis is really the number 1, like, I should act like a number 1 pitcher because I can do that. I'm not a backup. And then too, the confidence that my team had in me at that point too.
Right.
Like, they were all just rallying behind me. And again, I just felt like it was such a cohesive unit. And so again, it's like I'm not going to say no one could tell me anything, because I was always like, Steph, what can I do to be better?
Right.
But it was just one of those, it instilled the confidence in me to know that, like, you know what? I can run the show. Like, I want the ball in all these hard situations, because I know that my performance, I can do it.
Now, isn't it crazy? Like, as a pitcher, once you know that you have the confidence of your whole infield, outfield behind you, isn't it funny what it does for you?
I mean, yes. And, that whole year from my sophomore to junior year, I mean, it gets into like my personal story. And I don't want to like bombard you with that, but I had grown so much as a person, and, I had surgery that summer. I was reconstructive ankle surgery. I had to come back from that fast. I was going through things with my family. So I really relied on my team. Just not even for softball stuff, but just like, hey, like, I need help. My mental health, the fall of my junior year was not good. So I really had to lean in on them, and the coaching staff too. And I mean, our athletic trainer, our strength coach, I was like, hey, I got to get better so I can perform for this team, but I got to also like get my ankle better. Like, just all of these different things were going on in my life. And so and whenever I say like I really depended on them, I mean, it was very evident, extremely heavy. And so I think that vulnerability and transparency that I had with them was what led to me having such a great junior year. And that was the biggest difference between my sophomore and junior year. Don't get me wrong, playing a whole sophomore year with a broken ankle and then going into your junior year with a prepared one. Hell.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
But, I think, again, just being extremely vulnerable with the team and extremely transparent and, confiding in them emotionally, mentally, physically, through every avenue possible, and really working to better myself and mental health through going to therapy, seeing a sports psychologist and a regular psychologist, just all of those things put together. It was like that weekend, it just all seemed to kind of come together. And it was like, you know what? Like, they trust me. I trust them. Like, let's freaking do it. And so that's kind of where it came from, honestly.
Right on. Actually, I actually didn't know about the whole ankle surgery. Do we need our ankles to pitch? Do we?
Yes, just a little bit.
How long was the recovery?
Well, it's a funny story. So again, my whole sophomore year, I walked around in a boot because all the ligaments in my foot, in my left foot, which is my landing foot, except for one, except for my posterior tibialis, was torn. So I couldn't even lift my toes. So I had this like hard plastic casing. And if you go back and look at pictures, you'll see that from my sophomore year. It was like I had this hard plastic casing on the outside of my foot that allowed me to be able to pitch.
That's insane.
So, I know. It was crazy. And then, so after my sophomore year, I had that surgery, and it was supposed to be like, it was a heavy reconstruction. So it was supposed to be a 6-month recovery. Mm. But that fall, coming in August, September, Alexis Osorio needed some repair on her. She had a surgical need that she had to get done, and she needed to get it done before season. We had a pitcher who medically got released. And then we had another pitcher who was a freshman and ended up getting rhabdo like during the fall. So then it was like Murph came to me and was like, hey, so I know you're only 3 months out of surgery, but you're the healthiest one we got. So you're going to start the first fall game. And I was like, my arm hasn't gone in a circle since June. So what do you mean? And actually that first game was against Middle Tennessee, and it was at Middle Tennessee, and we lost it. Which, of course, everybody was on social media like, oh my God, the program's down the drain. And I'm like, if y'all knew, like, I literally have been pitching for maybe a week. Yeah. And I'm not even 100%, like, I'm not even cleared at this point. I mean, I was cleared to pitch.
Right. Yeah.
Like, they were pushing me past my limits. But it was like, I hadn't practiced pitching in 3 months, and I was the only pitcher available. And then, we had, freshman Maddie Moore was behind me, and it was her first time pitching. And again, she was recovering from rhabdomyolysis. So it's like we had all of this stuff going on. And so it was quite the show. But, and then, we get to the spring, and then everything kind of clicked together, and it was like, okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. At least it was fall and not the end of February.
Yes, exactly.
So of course, you close out your senior season super regionals against who else but the Florida Gators. We keep talking about Florida Gators, and the fact that you're with them kind of...
I said the fact that I'm here is just great.
Isn't that crazy?
I always tell people, I'm like, if you don't believe in God, that's one thing. But I do. And I'm a very religious person. I'm like, God, you have a sense of humor, and I don't know if I like you picking on me like this.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But so yeah, after that, the senior season, Florida Gators, how emotional was that for you?
It was extremely emotional again, because I was still going through some things personally that I feel like I left that game or that season, the end of my senior season, and kind of the reason I didn't, keep playing at that point. One, I was hurting. I needed hip surgery. I had a torn meniscus in my right knee, and then just, after years of throwing, my arm felt like it was going to fall off. So, and then, that's the only year we didn't go to the World Series.
Right.
For my career. And again, we still had a great season. We battled through some things, but it was one of those things that at that point, like, I was mad at the game, and I was mad. I don't know if I was more mad at myself because I really wanted to finish in OKC. But I was mad at the game. So I was like, you know what? I'm done. I am done. And I say that not to say I was hard and cold. Like, it was extremely emotional. But I will say after that game and after it like settled in, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm done. I'm ready to close that chapter. Yep. And I'm not in a good place with the game. So I guess that's time. It's time for me to go.
Yep.
But here we are again.
I was going to say, like, so at that point, it's 2017, you're done with the game. What did you have on the go between then and last year?
So I will start off by saying that identity crisis is an extremely real thing. And I went through it really hard.
Oh, yeah.
So I had moved to Houston with my fiance at the time, who is now my husband. Mm-hmm. He had proposed during my senior season. And so it was one of those things that I was like, he made that commitment to me. So I was like, okay, well, I'm moving to Houston. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to be this badass businesswoman. I'm going to be successful. And reality hit me very hard. I mean, it came to a point, it's like nobody would hire me because I was an athlete. And I'm like, isn't that what you want?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one of those things where people were like, we appreciate you that you were an athlete. You have all these amazing qualities, but you don't have any job experience. So if you want to work for free for us for a little while and get some experience that way, then maybe we can hire you. And I was like, well, that's not fun.
No.
So I ended up like working in finance for 6 months on 100% commission, which I didn't know really what that meant at the time. And then I figured that out very quickly. And I was not myself. And, I was depressed. I didn't know who I was. But, and I'm not even going to say it's because of being without the game. That was definitely a major part of it because I did identify myself as an athlete, an athlete only. But it was more of like, I didn't have my automatic friend group that I had every day. Don't get me wrong. I had Alex, my husband, but that's all I had. So, it was really hard, getting in the same rut of going to work every day and then coming home. And I was like, is this all that life is? Like waiting for the weekend so that way I can sleep because I'm tired all the time. Like, is this it?
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
So and so I was really upset about it. And then of course, we go to 2018 comes around, I get a new job, and thankfully I did and it was one that paid pretty well because then my husband loses his job. Then we get married and things are great. I'm back with my team again at the wedding. It was amazing. And then 2019 comes around. We moved to Birmingham. We're at UAB for 6 months. I get into commentating at that time. And so that brought me back to the game, which made me extremely happy. And to feel like I was still connected with the game that had given me so much was a good outlet. And then 2020 comes around. So we were in Birmingham for 6 months. And then we moved to Starkville, Mississippi, where I can still commentate for softball. So I'm feeling good. And I'm back in school, getting my master's in nutrition because I wanted a career that was a little bit more fulfilling. So we're doing that. And then COVID hits. So then I'm no longer commentating because it ruined softball season.
Yep.
And then, so I'm doing my dietetic internship, getting involved in sports nutrition. And so I'm just finding my way back into college athletics. And I say living vicariously through my athletes that I had. But whenever I say that, I mean, I was just enjoying being in that team environment again. And, the tweet was going around about Athletes Unlimited and hosting a tryout. And so, I was telling some of my athletes about it, just kind of joking around. They're like, no, why don't you do it? And I was like, you know what? You're right. So then it's like, I talked to my husband about it. And, I had a few reasons for going into this. It's one of those things that, I always wanted to be in the pros. That's every little softball player's dream, especially like since the Olympics weren't going on at the time, it was like, I wanted to be in the pros. And I really despise people that go around saying like, oh, well, I could have been a college athlete. I could have done that. Yeah. Or I could have been a pro athlete, but I just didn't want to work hard enough. I despise people that say that, And I mean, even people that are like, I could have been a Division I athlete, but I blew out my knee. Again, I understand that, but it still is one of those things. It's like, but you didn't. So please don't speak like you were in their shoes.
That's right. Yep.
So that's something that despises me. So it was like, I didn't want to walk around saying that like I had a chance to be a pro, but I just didn't do it because I was ready to walk away from the game. Like, I didn't want that excuse, and I didn't want to be that person because, again, I despise those people.
Mm-hmm.
Two, well, one was it's always been a dream. And then two was that reason. And then three, I don't have children yet, but I will one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have this feeling that it's going to be girls. And, even if it's a boy, that's still fine too.
Yep.
Honestly, I think I would prefer a boy in some cases. And so that's why I think it's going to be girls. Because again, God loves playing jokes on me.
Yes, he does.
So, it's something where, I see the discrepancies in men's versus women's sports, and specifically in softball.
Mm-hmm.
And again, do I know the solution? Absolutely not. But I wanted to get back in it because I wanted to be able to tell my daughters one day, and even if they're not daughters, if they're sons, my children one day, that I exhausted every possibility to get to the pros. And if they're girls, like I took my chance. So that way, if you decide to play sports, hopefully you have somebody to look up to that was a trailblazer
mm-hmm.
in women's sports, specifically for softball. I wanted to be able to tell my kids that I did that. Yep. And that I worked hard for it, and that all hard work brings a profit, no matter even if you don't make it, it'll still bring great reward. And again, just to be a role model for them and to be able to kind of, my actions speak louder than my words. So then just saying it, I actually did it. Mm-hmm. And so I talked to my husband about it. I'll be honest, I didn't really give him an option. I just kind of told him that I was going to do it.
Of course, yes.
But, he fully supported me. And at the time we were at Mississippi State and the softball program there, they let me use their facilities to train. And so I was extremely grateful for that. And I had 6 weeks. And that's not a lot of time for somebody who has not pitched in 3.5 years.
Definitely not. No.
And, I had gone through a partial hip replacement that I had in 2019. Finally got my hip fixed and all that. So, I had a lot to adjust.
I guess you did.
Yeah, I kind of had to adjust the complete way I pitched. Yeah. And so, that took some time figuring out. And I knew whenever I went to tryouts in Rosemont that I was not ready. Mm. But the mentality that I had going into that tryout was, again, I've told you that I'm extremely competitive. And so in my mind, I'm like, I absolutely have to be the best pitcher here. Mm-hmm. So I got caught in the comparison trap. Like, okay, what is that person doing? Because I need to be better. Yeah. What is this person doing? Because I need to be better.
Yeah. So that's a tough trap to fall into too.
Yeah, yes. And especially, I had been out of the game for 3.5 years. So it's like, and I was a different pitcher because of, I had to change some form stuff and based on surgeries and everything else. And again, I knew I wasn't fully prepared. So I had that anxiety playing a part. And that's whenever the comparison trap came in. Yeah. So I did not have a good performance at tryouts. Everybody's like, oh, well, you still should have made it. And I will be the first person to tell you, absolutely not. I should not have made it because 1, I wasn't ready. 2, I didn't put on a good performance. And 3, I didn't have the presence of a professional pitcher out there on the mound. Right. Like I will absolutely tell you that and be completely honest about it. Mm-hmm. Do I wish I still would have made it by like a sympathy vote? Sure. Yeah,
of course.
Did I earn a spot there? No.
Right.
And so then after tryouts, I come home and I'm like, that really sucks. I'm heartbroken. Here I am again, heartbroken from the game. So I guess I'm done. And then I start getting messages through social media about going to play in the Europe Cup. And I'm getting messages from Sweden, from Czech Republic, from all of these different places. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm just going to go for like a month and play in the Europe Cup, why not? Yep. I'm in school. I've never been much of a travel bug person, but through the pandemic, I was like, man, I need to get out there and freaking live my life.
Yeah. Same with us all.
Yes, exactly. And so I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, if anything, this is the time to do it. I'm in school. It's not like I'm making money. It's not like I'm going to be leaving anything behind. Like, I need to go do something, have an experience, something that I can remember for the rest of my life. Now, going through that, it was the Europe Cup was going to be during football camp. So I was really upset that I wasn't going to be able to take my husband with me.
Yeah.
So I went with the next best thing. I was like, hey, Mom. And I remember,
let's go to Europe.
I remember whenever I was talking to Ruth, which is the team in Amsterdam that I ended up going to play with, or in the Netherlands, let me say.
Yep.
They would get mad if I said in Amsterdam, because they're technically not in Amsterdam. They're outside of Amsterdam. So Holland. But, that team, I had actually had some connections with them. So, Alabama softball after my freshman year went to go play in Amsterdam. And, we stayed at this bed and breakfast. I can't pronounce the name of it because it's Dutch, so I will spare everybody from that. But the owner of that bed and breakfast, his daughter plays on roof. So it was like a full circle moment of like, wow, I could go back and actually we stayed a night. My mom and I did in the same bed and breakfast that we stayed at.
That's pretty cool.
So it was really cool, kind of full circle moment. But whenever I was communicating with them, it was, I could bring my mom, she could travel with us. They would make sure she was taken care of as well. And, my mom had always wanted to go to Europe. My dad had never wanted to really go. He didn't want to fly overseas. So it was an opportunity where I knew I could take my mom and she would be taken care of and she would get to enjoy it too. So that's why I went with Ruth. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you want to talk about the best experience of a lifetime. I mean, they treated us so well. I mean, it was the first time in over 10 years that a team for the Netherlands had medaled in Europe Cup. So we made history. And then, I mean, just the experience that I got to bond with all of those girls, they welcomed me in and they really ignited my love for the game again.
Nice. Nice.
They took me in, I'm weird, I'm strange, I'm awkward. And they just absolutely embraced it and rallied around it and made me feel like I was a part of a team again. And it was like at that moment or during that time, I was like, wow, like the game of softball has taken me so many places. Like how could I ever be mad at this game that has given me so much?
Yeah, really though. How did, so I'm guessing AUX came out of your success over in Euro Cup?
Yeah, I would say so. And, then we moved to Florida and I had been in communication with Amanda Lorenz. She was a volunteer assistant last year. And so It was like, I was talking to her about like, hey, what's a good coffee shop? And, she had reached out to me in April, I think it was. Because I had 7 weeks to prepare for AUX, but I had only been not pitching for like 3 months at this time. So That's a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
But, she had reached out and was like, hey, we're looking for people to play in AUX because we need pitchers. Like, is that something you would even be interested in? I don't know if you're throwing. And I was like, if y'all can let me use your practice facility, then absolutely, I would be interested. Because at the time I was working, part-time as a nutrition assistant. So it's not like I was making a lot of money. And so I was going to make more money doing that. And plus, again, it's the opportunity to play pro in the States. Like, why would I pass that up?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I get to talking to Victoria Hayward and Sherry. And so we get all the AUX stuff worked out. And, then stuff starts going around that there's going to be another tryout at the end of AUX to try out for championship season. And I had who was it that I think it was Sherry that I had told like, hey, I want to try out. Or maybe it was Victoria Hayward. I was like, hey, I do want to try out. So, y'all keep that in your back pocket. Like, let me know if there's enough spots. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure. So anyways, I go on to training for AUX. And honestly, my training was relatively the same. It was a little bit more fine-tuned and I used a little bit more visual aids, but it was definitely a lot of mentality. Like I gave myself some grace on days where I didn't have good bullpens. And I just wanted to go into AUX with the mentality of like, if this is the last time that I play softball, I just want to have fun. Like, I don't want to put pressure on myself like I did at tryouts last year and leave with a bitter taste in my mouth. You know, I just want to enjoy the game. You know, I'll get the dream of being able to tell my kids that I played professional softball in the States. And so, like, I've already made it. So at this point, I just need to enjoy all of my hard work and accomplishments.
Yeah.
And that was a huge mentality shift for me. And, you know, it worked. That was not in the plan for it to work, but it did. And so, you know, halfway through AUX, they start talking about the tryout again. And so I messaged Sherry and I was like, hey, I just want you to know that, like, I do want to try out. I just need y'all to let me know if, like, you can use my AUX performance as my tryout, or if I need to participate in the tryout that's the day after AUX, which I was really hoping they would say they could use my performance in AUX, because at that point we had thrown so much in 2 weeks that I was like, that 4-hour tryout, I am going to be absolutely toast, and my performance is not going to reflect me in a good light. Yeah. So, you know, at that point they were like, yeah, we can use your performance. Like, it'll be up to the PEC. And then that next series, I was on a team with Victoria Hayward, and, you know, we were all in a circle doing our pregame gate, where it's like somebody asks a question, everybody goes around and shares their answer. And Victoria at the end was like, hey, one more question or one more thing we got to go over. Hey, Sydney, you want to join us for AUX or for AU Championship Season 3? And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I started crying, and it was just like, it was an amazing moment. And then of course, you know, we lead into AU, and again, here we are.
That's awesome. Actually, I got a funny story before we get to Season 3. I got a funny story because, I mean, since AU started, I've been on the bandwagon of it, supporting it on here. Like, you would not believe, like, I love it. So, I mean, you know, I've been following it since day one. I've had Sam on here. I've had Vic. I've had Kat. Everybody, like, I try to get as many athletes from there on here to talk to. Right. So I was watching AUX, and I can still remember watching you for the first time, and you threw that curveball, and I was like, whoa, what was that? And so I rewound it like 8 to 9 times. And then I realized I'm probably going to see this again. Why am I rewinding this? But that was my first impression. I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah. And you know, the best compliment I've ever received as a pitcher came in AU, and it was from Danielle O'Toole. And she doesn't even know that this, like, hit me in my heartstrings, but it did, because, you know, I take everything that she says to heart. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she said, you know, watching you pitch is like watching art happen, because, you know, what you're able to do is something that, you know, nobody else can do. And I was just like, oh my God, like, am I crying? Absolutely.
Totally tugging on the heartstrings, huh?
Yes. And, you know, I made a joke, but I'm also absolutely for real. But that was something that my sports psychologist in college went over with me. And it was actually during my junior year. Because, you know, I always wanted to throw hard since I couldn't throw hard anymore. And everybody knew that I was going to throw a curveball. I just was going to throw different variations of it. And right. So he was like, you know what? You need to embrace who you are. And I was like, you know what, Brett, you're right. And he goes, you are Raising Cane's chicken. And I was like, wait, what? And he said, let me explain. He goes, what do you get whenever you go to Raising Cane's chicken? I said, chicken. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, it's damn good chicken though, right? And I was like, well, yeah. And he goes, and you know, going there, you're going to get chicken, right? And I was like, yes. And he goes, well, what do you get? What are you going to get if you go to the Cheesecake Factory? I was like, oh, I don't know. And he goes, it's a big menu, right? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, think about that as like somebody with a lot of pitches. It's great, you know, but depends on the day, depends on what you're in the mood for. He said, so that's where you come in. You are Raising Cane's chicken. Everyone knows that you're going to throw a curveball, but it's a damn good curveball. And, you know, whenever it's your time to shine, like, it's your freaking time to shine. So you need to own it. And that's who you are. Like, you are a specialist.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? This is the craziest metaphor I've ever heard, but it works.
What words of wisdom. That's fantastic.
Right?
Wow. So, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that stuck with me.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt. So by you going to Is it a 2-year contract that you get?
No, they have started giving out 2-year contracts, but mine is just a 1 year.
Just a 1 year?
I'm still waiting to hear back if I'm going to be offered another contract, but I'm hoping that, there's a good feeling. So I'm speaking it into existence that I will be invited back for one more season.
We all are then. We definitely all are.
Yeah.
So for you personally, what's the best thing about AU?
Again, I'd have to say the people and just being in an environment like that challenges you mentally, physically, emotionally. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's the grind. But we're having the difficult conversations. Like, okay, I'm at this point in my life. I feel like I'm not being the best wife I can be to my husband. And it's I'm sitting around with these girls and they're like, well, why is that? I tell them the reason why. And they're like, well, let's fix that. What can we do to make you the best wife? So it's like being in a very empowering environment that, just one makes you feel like you're on cloud 9 because you're like, I need somebody to hype me up and tell me I'm pretty. They are 100% going to be your hype girls. Yeah. And 2, it's again, just being in an empowering environment that's going to challenge you not only to be a better player because you're playing against the best in the country, but also to just be a better person. And then, you get into the competition and I feel like just playing in this one season of AU and AUX too has elevated my game so much. I mean, I have so much I want to work on before next year, but it's just it's a whole, I'm not gonna say it's a completely different mindset, but it is so different from college. And I think for me, being, not saying that commentating like was a super power thing, but looking at the game from that angle and being analytical of it, and then having the college experiences and playing, in Europe professionally, I think all of those different experiences did help me in AU as far as like, I wasn't comparing myself to who I was in college. I was like, you know what? I am a different pitcher. So I need to go with what's working. If it's not working like it used to, fine. So be it. Because in college, I had a rise ball. For the life of me, I cannot throw a rise ball now because it hurts my hip, whenever I land. I can't find a way to get in that position. So that's something I want to have before next year. Yeah. But it's like, you can't dwell on anything. You give up a home run. So what? Next pitch. Let's go. But you have to move fast. Otherwise, because the game moves so fast, 6 runs can go up on the board in a heartbeat. I have never seen anything like it. And just knowing too, like, it really teaches you to celebrate everything. I get a swinging strike, like a swing and miss. Oh my God, I am queen of the world. Like, you literally cannot tell me anything. I get a strikeout. You better watch out because I am a whole new person that you do not want to deal with.
I got more points.
Yes. And I mean, it's just, and as far as the leaderboard goes, I mean, it's being thrown in your face. So it's like you pay attention to it in that regard, but everybody really tries their best not to pay attention to it because at the end of the day, it comes down to team points. Yeah,
that's what everybody else has said on here too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those that like this has happened where I go a weekend where I pitched great, but my team did not win any games. Therefore, I dropped 20 spaces on the leaderboard. It's like, what?
Yeah.
But, it keeps the team points involved. But, it's just there's always an opportunity to make something happen. And again, if you dwell on it, like, you better get your butt out of that game because it's going to get away from you real fast.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now, I'm going to continuously hype AU as long as it's going because, I mean, everything like from, Savannah with her little mic on there doing interviews to Jade and her how awesome is Jade and her photo work?
She is literally one of my favorite people.
I had her on the podcast here about a month and a half ago, and that was awesome. Like, Jade is a ball.
You can't meet a better and more selfless person.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one thing I got to talk before we get to the final segment. I know you were part of Chitty's last game there, firsthand too, being on her team. How amazing was it to see her hit that home run in her last at bat?
Oh my God. That is probably top 3. One of my most favorite softball moments in the history of softball.
It was unreal.
Absolutely unreal. And that's one of those where you can't help but say the game knows.
Yep. 100.
Like the game, the game knows, and that goes with everything as far as the game knows if you're putting in work. The game knows the legacy that you are leaving. The game knows who you are as a person and like your inside and out, and who, again, what your thoughts are, who you really are on the inside, if you are selfless, if you are selfish. And I feel like that was just the most amazing ending to an amazing and storied career.
Oh.
And, Chitty already holds a special place in my heart because she was my first captain at AUX. She selected me, and I don't know if she selected me by her will or because of people were like, you know what, give her a shot. Why not?
Right.
Nobody knows what she's going to throw. So, but because of that, and, she was the one who decided my first start in the pros. So like, to me, she just has a special place in my heart for that. And giving me those memories and giving me a chance. But that moment, oh my gosh, like that was when I had a tear running down my eye because I was like, you just couldn't write a better ending.
No, absolutely not. I mean, and now she's assistant coach with Michigan. Michigan's in good hands there for sure.
I mean, right? Like, good Lord.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Sid, we got a thing that I like to end the podcast with. I call it player association. I'm going to throw out some names to you. And
okay.
You, if you have a story, let her fly. I mean, it's all good.
Okay.
First one on the docket, Demi Turner.
Oh, Demi Turner. So many memories. She, me and her lived together. So she still is one of my ride or dies. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding. Unfortunately, during both of her big injuries that she had, I was pitching and I was like, Demi, why would you do this to me while I'm pitching? Because I'm also your roommate. So of course I have that little extra sense of, oh my God, that's my roommate. What am I going to do? She helped coordinate whenever Alex proposed to me. We went to Alex and I, whenever we lived in Houston, we went a year to her family's Thanksgiving, to a Greek Thanksgiving. Whenever I got my wedding dress, her mom held it for me at her house for months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So very close to Demi Turner.
Awesome. Next is, this might be a running theme here, Jaden Spencer.
Oh my God. Definitely one of my best friends. My husband's favorite of one of my friends, favorite Bama softball teammate. And then she is a person who helped me really embrace who I was, knowing that I was weird, I was different, I was, awkward, whatever it may be. She really brought that out of me and helped me become confident in who I was. Whenever I was going through some traumatic times, she was a person that was very close to me. She was a voice of reason and an absolute true friend. She was very involved in my wedding. She was also a bridesmaid in my wedding. Pretty sure if we have girls, my husband and I are going to name one of them after her because she has such a special place in our lives. So,
geez, that's pretty good if you're going to name a daughter after her, though.
Yeah, in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Does that mean the daughter's name is going to be Tortuga? Because that would be what we yelled at each other during the game. I hope not, but in some form or fashion, our daughter will have Jaden Spencer's name in some way.
Right on, right on. Next, your pitching counterpart, Alexis Osorio.
Are you just calling out all my bridesmaids?
I didn't know they were all your bridesmaids, actually.
Yes, because Alexis Osorio was also my bridesmaid. Also another person in my life who could not have been more opposite from who I was, or who I am still. But that's what made us work together so well as pitchers and as friends. I mean, I'm the one... If there's, I have an extremely short fuse, so I blow up on people, whereas like you could literally poke her all day long, be the most annoying person, and she's just like, whatever. And I'm over here, if you even like smack your gum for like 3 smacks, I'm like, what is wrong with you? So, but she really helped me as a pitcher learn not just about the small stuff and how to be a quiet competitor. And, a silent assassin, if you will.
Right.
And, now that she's coaching, I can't imagine all of the lives that she is impacting. And, she just got engaged as well. So
congrats.
I have to say happy and congrats to her. It's about time. So, but again, just a very important person in my life.
Right on. Two more here. Next one, friend of the show, one of my favorite people ever. I did my research. I think you guys were teammates for either 5 or 6 of your weeks, including AUX and AU. Sam Fisher.
Oh my God, Sam Fisher. One of my absolute best friends. She has made me a reader, which I used to hate reading, but now I'm actually getting into where I really like reading some books.
What, Harry Potter?
Yes, I love Harry Potter. I actually sent her a Twitter message about a Harry Potter wand that I think we should get. That's an to that today. But, to me now at this point, because we were on every team we had at AUX, we were together. And then the scrimmage team at AU, we were together. And again, a couple weekends of AU, we were together. So any time I'm not with Sam on a team, I feel like a part of me is missing. And we found out that me and her are actually very similar. Now, she may not claim that, but I do. We are both Enneagram 1 wing 2s. So again, that goes into high functioning anxiety and very organized, but also there's just, look up Enneagram 1 wing 2 and it's me and her to a T. We have a lot of similarities. And I mean, she's such a fun person to be around, and someone, again, who doesn't sweat the small stuff. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell by how she acts on the field and outside of the game if she's had a good or a bad game. You are going to get the exact same person day in and day out. And in that way, she is extremely consistent. And so she's definitely somebody, again, that has ignited my love for the game, and watching her celebrate and getting to celebrate her whenever she succeeds is one of my favorite parts of playing softball.
Awesome. Absolutely. Love her. Last but not least, your coach for 4 seasons, Coach Patrick Murphy.
Oh my God. Murph dog. Definitely an important figure in my life. And even though he doesn't have any children, I would consider him a father figure in my life. He changed my life in many ways and saved me as well. Made like just the fact that he took a chance on me. I mean, I always tell people, don't look at my, especially students that I used to have in pitching lessons. I was like, don't look at my college experience and expect the same thing because I set the bar really high. I mean, he gave me the opportunity to win an SEC championship, to play for a national championship, to be the first person in my family to get a master's degree. My husband got to propose to me on that field. Like, are you kidding me? So, the experience and the lifelong friendships that he has put into my life is something that I could never repay him for. And even still the person he is today, like anytime I'm interviewing for a new job or something, like he's still a reference. So he gets those emails like, please write a reference for and I always text him and I'm like, you know what? You have known me at my highest and you have known me at my lowest. So whatever you want to tell these people, like, I trust you. You can be completely honest with them because again, like he has played such a major part in my life. And, I'm not starting rumors or anything. I know he's going to retire one day and I'm going to be so sad. And cause I just, it's one of those things I like, even with Steph, Steph's head coach at Memphis now, and I could not be more happy, but it's like, now I'm going to go there and be like, wait, where's my pitching coach? And so, I'm not ready for the day that he decides to retire. I will be extremely excited for him, but also I'm going to call him and be like, wait, Murph, like you were supposed to wait for my daughters to grow up and go to college. So
and coach them.
You still have over 20 years left. What are you talking about? But I mean, again, just somebody, and I'm not afraid to say it, but he's weird and awkward too. So he's one of us.
Yeah.
And so especially now getting to know him outside of being a player, now being an alum, again, getting to know that he is just as weird and just as awkward as we are. Like he's such a good time to be around.
Oh, that's awesome. What a beautiful way to end it. Well,
Yeah.
Syd, I got to thank you for coming on. This has been fantastic.
Oh, no, thank you for the opportunity. Again, anytime I get to talk softball with anybody, I'm all about it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I wish you nothing but the best moving forward. Hopefully, we're going to be seeing you in season 4 of AU. Best of luck to the Florida Gators this season of football. Absolutely. And hey, stay safe during this hurricane, please.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're probably going to lose power tomorrow, but we'll be all right. So, glad we got to talk today.
Absolutely. All right, Syd, take care.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Boys and girls, we need to turn it up. Class, Bob, we take it up a little higher. So high, yeah. Now when I'm feeling down and out, I'm feeling out of commission. I call you up in a minute, you come on over, I hit it. I'm the one who said he's never gonna do it, but did it. Yeah, your love is addictive. Without the hugging and kissing, you got me breaking the bank, got me spending my dough. I love the way that you taste and leave your scent on my clothes. You take my breath away, choked up, literally. My body felt the pain those couple days when we broke up. You killing me. Yeah, my parents try to pre-warn me, but now we higher than E40 and King Gordy. When I'm in the studio recording, it seems boring until you come around each morning and reward me. Losing my nerves when I was feeling them tight. Yeah, I'm falling in love, it kept me up every night. We've been together for years, I can't believe that it lasted. I love you till you're gone and you're nothing but ashes. You smoking, girl. Woo. Yeah.
When the climate is this, you give me the type of high I would miss. When you light up, I can't explain how much excitement I get. Travel to California, I catch a flight for yourself. You got the same initials as
Are you downsizing? Maybe need more room because of additions to the family, or possibly seeking that dream home you've always wanted. Well, Tim Eisner at Royal LePage Atlantic is the guy for you. With a proven track record and multiple awards, Tim goes above and beyond to find out your needs and exactly what you're looking for. So if you're seeking a new home or trying to sell your current one, contact Tim at 902-499-5717 or check him out on Facebook at Tim Eisner. Again, that's 902-499-5717. Trust me, when all is said and done, we'll be saying Tim Eisner strikes again.